Boosting his movement speed with mana, Arthur dashes through the Elshire forest, ensuring he doesn't accidentally harm Sylvia's egg, while leaping from one tree to another like a monkey. Hey warriors, how is it going? You see me, I am Itachi Uchiha, the hidden Hokage of Leaf Village. Just kidding, you know I am just an AI, but behind this shape, I am here to entertain you with enormous amazing recaps of all animes you can imagine. So without talking too much, let's dive in our story.
Wake up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world.
Soon, another figure appears and attempts to kill him, but he easily defeats this challenger. After that, the king looks at a mask and says, I remembered when I was a king. Then he loses consciousness and imagines himself drowning in the ocean. He hears a voice telling him, in your new life, seek the light. Next, the king finds himself in the form of a child, and his mother and father look at him with love and joy, telling him his name is Arthur. His father tells him, I want you to call me Dad. Arthur, confused, thinks to himself, who are these people? He realizes he has died and has transferred to a new world. Arthur thinks, I was born a powerless child. It seems these two don't know me, but they are completely convinced I am their real son. He feels frustrated by his situation. His father plays with him and tells his mother that he loves him very much. Arthur lives his life like a normal child, which does not please him, but his mother takes good care of him. He feels imprisoned by his powerlessness since he is just a child with no strength. He wishes he were dreaming and would wake up, but it seems this situation is permanent and stranger things are about to happen. Then, we see Arthur's father training in magic, appearing very strong. Arthur is amazed by his father's power. During his training, his father accidentally injures himself with a stone, and his wife goes to check on him using high-level healing magic. Arthur is very impressed by this, thinking, there is power in this world that I know nothing about. The next day, Arthur's father trains again in the forest, strong enough to defeat many monsters. A lot of people arrive and stand in front of him. They seem to be his friend. Later, Arthur's father comes home, greeted by his wife and son. Arthur studies his situation closely, watching everything around him. When his father tries to hug him and his mother, he stops because of the blood on his hands. Here, Arthur realizes that in this world, people are allowed to carry weapons, which seems dangerous. Therefore, he wants to gain power as quickly as possible. Arthur's mother reassures her husband, who says everything is fine and that he has done his work well. Although Arthur is still frustrated with his situation, he tells himself, even though I am a powerless child, these family moments are not bad. He remembers some things from his old life when intruders sneaked into the palace and he defeated them in the blink of an eye. He thinks he is not used to sleeping so comfortably as he was always on the run in his old life. Days pass quickly and Arthur begins to crawl like any normal child. His parents encourage and watch him carefully so he doesn't hurt himself. Arthur then goes to the mirror, looks at himself and says, after all these days, I still haven't gotten used to my current situation or this name that my parents keep calling me. His mother puts him in bed to sleep, but he isn't asleep. After she leaves, he jumps out of bed and says, finally, I can control my limbs and move a bit freely. Arthur carefully heads toward the library, hoping not to catch his mother's attention. He succeeds, reaches the library, and pulls out a book. Starting to read, he thinks knowledge is a double-edged sword. He begins to learn what he desires, and finds out he was born on a continent called Deka-ten, which has 3 kingdoms. The first is the Dwarven Kingdom of Darb, living underground. The second is the Elven Kingdom of Yedro, which resides deep in the forest. And the third is Sabin, where Arthur lives. Arthur notes that this kingdom resembles his old one, but here, the throne is inherited, not seized. Next, Arthur moves on to another book, pulls it out to read, and drops both volumes to the floor. He notes that this world is not as advanced as his, and that this book reflects their relatively primitive technology. He learns that this world has magic, and the power present here is mana, which is mostly hereditary. There seem to be 2 applications for summoning mana, enhancement and summoning. Enhancers use mana to boost their physical strength and provide incredible power, as well as defense and agility, while summoners can summon the mana and control it as they wish. Arthur began to think about the magic his mother used to heal his father, and he started saying, it seems there are exceptions, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is that the key to controlling mana is the essence of mana itself. Also, most mages exploit their abilities and start using them from the beginning of puberty until late adolescence by gathering the essence in their bodies into one point, which is called the essence of mana. Mastering the control of the essence of mana allows a person to become a mage. I have some background in controlling a power similar to this from my past life because I was able to control the key that represents the awareness of a person's inner strength and manage it before releasing it. Then he began to think and asked himself, will the knowledge I have from my past life serve as a weapon in this life, in this world? He started to focus and tried to control the essence of mana, and it seemed he was indeed able to do this. However, his mother interrupted him, saying, you made me worry about you. Don't do this again. She then looked at him in surprise, thinking she had discovered something, but she said to him, it seems you excelled. Arthur replied, how embarrassing. His mother then took him to change his diaper, and he thought to himself, this body is still a prison. I need to gain more strength and control myself better. After 2 years, Arthur's mother was writing her daily diary and started praising her son, saying he was the most beautiful and smartest child in the world. But there was one problem. He hadn't smiled even once since he was born. Then, looking out the window, she saw that Arthur was sitting with his father, practicing with a stick like a sword. His father was very impressed and said, "It seems you are talented." He called for his mother to see what Arthur was doing, but she was very angry and said, "What are you doing with my sweet boy?" He replied, "I didn't do anything. I was just showing him how to use the sword." She scolded him, saying, "How can you do this?" He just started walking. Arthur thought, "It seems I've learned how things work in this world. It looks like this entire world operates under a mother's control." Later, on their way to the city, Arthur was screaming with joy, thinking that his visit to the city had provided him with a lot of information. He said that using weapons would allow him to control some technology and power of this world. He also gained insights about some stones he saw for the first time, which didn't exist in his world, and he had amazing opportunities to see magic. His visit to the city was indeed fruitful. Later, they were on their way home, and Arthur fell asleep from exhaustion. He was thinking, this family is taking care of all my needs. Even though this life suffocates me, it isn't entirely bad. Then he began to wonder, shouldn't family always be like this? He started remembering some bleak scenes from his past life when his parents left him at an orphanage as a baby, and he grew up there, which wasn't a good life. That's why he said, feeling the warmth of this family is nice. While Arthur was sleeping, his mother began talking to him, saying, "Do you know I love the things you do, like sneaking off to read books and always pretending to be asleep when you're not? It seems you've inherited these traits from your father. The day will come when you decide to escape to see the outside world." The next day, Arthur watched his father using magic and thought, "I'm very lucky to have a live example from whom I can learn what I want." Arthur's father was using magic to move stones when his mother came from behind and said, "It seems we have a chance to see your father's power." Indeed, his father used a very powerful spell that left Arthur amazed, and he thought, "It seems my father is of the enhancement type." Later, Arthur's father took him to go to sleep, but he didn't want that. He wanted to read a book. His mother refused, but he looked at her with innocent eyes until she let him do what he wanted. She initially resisted, but eventually gave in to his wishes and let him read the book. During this time, Arthur said that in these 2 years, he discovered many things, but the most important was discovering his ability to produce mana cores, gathering all the essence parts in his body to concentrate in one point. Learning this was very hard, but it seems my training finally paid off. Meanwhile, Arthur's father was outside resting when suddenly a huge explosion happened in the house. Arthur's father was able to save his mother, and when he realized what had happened, he was very worried about Arthur. He rushed home to check on their son and managed to find him. Being shocked at what he saw, he thought, "My son hasn't even turned 3 yet." But he managed to control the essence of mana. Arthur was very happy with his progress, but suddenly some wooden beams fell and he thought he was going to die. However, his parents saved him at the last moment. Arthur thought, "I have a family that loves me, doing everything to make sure I'm safe." Arthur's mother started crying, affected by what had happened, but she was also very happy that her son was all right. In this situation, Arthur began to remember some events from his old life when he used to see parents worrying and caring for their children while he was always alone. Tears also started flowing from Arthur, just like his parents, and he didn't know why this was happening, as he had never experienced these feelings in his past life. He hugged his mother and began to cry for the first time in his life, saying, "I wish someone would explain to me what's happening exactly." After these dramatic events, a dangerous monster appeared. It seems many things are about to happen. We get a glimpse into the past life of Arthur, who was once known as King Gray. Back then, a royal servant was caught attempting to assassinate him. By law, the man should have been executed without question, but instead, the king's council decided to exile him to his home country, along with his entire family, fully aware that a fate far worse than death awaited them there. The guilty, desperate, and terrified begged Gray to spare his family. Yet Gray, showing no mercy, slaughtered the man's wife and daughter right before his eyes. Not out of vengeance though, but as an act of mercy. A chilling display of just how cold-blooded he truly was. So it's almost unbelievable to think that Arthur, this innocent-looking kid, is the same person who once ruled with such heartless resolve. Right now, Arthur is spending time with his father, Ray, who gifts him a pair of identical combat gloves like his own, but Arthur turns them down, choosing to stick with his wooden sword instead. He believes that with his current physique, wearing the gloves would shorten his reach too much and put him at a disadvantage. Ray doesn't argue or insist. Instead, he smiles and casually steps into their usual sparring session. But today isn't like the others. Mid-fight, Arthur reveals he's learned how to reinforce his sword with mana, and with that sudden reveal, he completely disarms Rei for the first time in his life. Arthur wins, leaving Rei stunned, speechless, and completely caught off guard by his son's rapid growth. Later at dinner, Rei decides to get Arthur a proper instructor, having realized that he will be hindering his son's progress if he doesn't. Arthur's mom, Alice, stands against this decision, as she knows that getting Arthur an instructor means he'll have to leave their hillside home and go far to the city alone at the young age of 4. Rei still insists, telling Alice that Arthur is now able to enhance anything with magic, and states that it's for his future. Both parents go back and forth on the matter and end up in a big argument at the dinner table, so Arthur comes up with a simple solution to create a win-win situation for both of them, and proposes that they both come along with him to the city. This way, Rei gets to have Arthur trained by a proper tutor, and Alice gets to have her little boy by her side at all times. Arthur's parents instantly agree and start packing immediately for their move to the city. Not long after, Rei's friend group, an adventuring party called the Two Horns, comes personally to escort Arthur and his family to the city. Arthur introduces himself to them and to their leader, Adam, who tells Arthur that they've met in the past, but assumes a kid like Arthur wouldn't remember. However, Arthur does remember everything crystal clear. It was back when he blew up the entire house. At that time, the Two Horns came to help rebuild it, and Arthur overheard their entire conversation, learning that his parents were once part of the Two Horns before settling down. Anyway, when Adam finishes speaking with Arthur, Angela steps in, giving Arthur a tight hug, leaving no room for him to breathe. Durden, the tank of the group, notices the kid struggle and pulls him away from Angela. That's when Arthur notices a young lady staring at him from the top of the carriage. She is Jasmine, seemingly not that friendly, who only silently watches Arthur from the distance. Arthur gets lost in her eyes when Helen approaches, shakes his hand, and introduces herself and Jasmine on her. Instead, with the introduction of the Two Horns coming to an end, the journey to Zyra City begins. Arthur quietly comments to himself how primitive this transportation system is compared to his old world, where flying cars were the norm. Still, he doesn't think it's terrible though, especially with his ever-caring mom by his side. On the journey, they take several breaks every day, and during one of them, a pack of wild wolf monsters attacks, making Arthur realize firsthand how dangerous the outside world truly is. Jasmine steps up to fight the wolves, and using her daggers effortlessly takes them down. Rei, Adam, and the other members of the Two Horns join the battle, and soon after, they handle the situation. Arthur, as the only spectator, becomes motivated by his companions and begins to look forward to joining them in their next fight. They have a feast later that night when Arthur notices that Alice isn't eating anything at all. She claims she's full, but something feels off. She notices an injury on Rei's arm and immediately gets up to heal him. As she does, the atmosphere shifts. The group becomes cautious, subtly guarding the area to ensure no outsiders are watching. It becomes clear to Arthur they are only taking precautions because healing magic is rare and highly sought after in this world. Apparently, the sole reason Rei and Alice have been living alone in the scarce hillside is to keep Alice's healing abilities hidden from prying eyes. After the feast, Adam borrows Arthur from his parents, wanting to spar with the boy to see if he's really as skilled as Rei claims. The rest of the group is just as curious about the child prodigy's potential, so they gather around, creating an unexpected crowd. Arthur, only 4 years old, wonders if none of them are even slightly worried about him. Regardless, this marks Arthur's first sparring match against someone other than his father, and unlike Rei, who only used a wooden stick, Adam is wielding a real spear, albeit covered with bandages. As soon as the duel begins, Adam wastes no time enhancing his spear with mana. Arthur responds by doing the same, but takes it a step further, channeling mana into his feet to boost his speed dramatically. In a sudden blur, he darts forward, landing the first hit before Adam can react. Right after, he slides cleanly between Adam's legs and creates distance, leaving the entire group speechless at his incredible speed and precision. The fight intensifies, they clash head on, but the power gap becomes undeniable. Arthur, with no raw strength, is completely, and quite literally, is blown away by Adam's strike. The impact sends him flying, and he instantly realizes just how light and fragile his current body is for direct combat. Before he can hit the ground too hard, Angela uses her wind magic to gently lower him down, softening the fall. Durden quickly steps in, reprimanding Adam for going too far against a little kid, reminding him that he was supposed to hold back. Adam raises his hands in defense, admitting he got carried away, but only because Arthur's technique caught him completely off guard. Deep down, he's left wondering what kind of hellish training Ray put this kid through to turn him into such a monster at just 4 years old. Turning to the side, he finds Jasmine looking at him weirdly. She wishes to know how he just pulled that off and pleads with him to teach her how to do it. Seeing the blank expression on her face, he comes to the conclusion that she will not back down until she gets what she wants. The next morning, they all continue on their journey and soon take a stop at a quiet area for Arthur to continue with his training. Adam teaches him how to use a spear, while his father pulls up some gym bro moves, even though the weakling was just a weakling. After that, Helen teaches him some archery, and he becomes a pro in a short time. With all his training done for the day, he proceeds to give Jasmine the lessons she demanded for, and she proves to be a fast learner. Later that night, while he is reading a book, Jasmine continues to stare at him like she is lost in his non-existent handsomeness. Soon after, she becomes like a stalker. The next day happens to be Arthur's birthday, and Jasmine hands him a dagger as a gift. To the surprise of the other ladies, she even began explaining how to use the dagger to him. Having gotten enough of their child's play and being a pained single man, Adam announces that they would be heading out now. When his mother Alice calls him over, he discovers that she is not feeling so well. When he asks her what the problem is, she assures him that she is fine, even though he doesn't buy her talk. As they continue on their journey, they soon get attacked by bandits along the way. When this happens, they all jump down from the carriage and take their stance in defense. The bandits rain down arrows on them, but Angela shields them from it with her magic barrier. Looking outside, Arthur figures that they are largely surrounded. On the other hand, the leader of the bandits with a square-shaped head orders his men not to harm the women and children since he intends to sell them for a good price. Just then, the bandits charge aggressively at them, and Alice, who clearly is scared, tries to make Arthur stay calm. Before the bandits could get any closer to them, Durden blasts them away while Ray swiftly punches them. One of the bandits is about to strike Ray when Helen shoots an arrow through his wicked heart. Furthermore, Adam slices past the bandits with his spear, while Jasmine strikes them with her daggers. Watching them do all this makes Arthur acknowledge that the members of the Twin Horns party are individually skilled. However, since the bandits outnumber them greatly, they stand no chance. After fighting for a while, they all become exhausted while the bandits keep coming at them. Soon enough, the bandits slam Ray into the carriage and he lies unconscious. This allows the ugly bandit leader to get closer to Alice and Arthur. Seeing Ray in this state, the two run out of the carriage, but at this time, Ray regains consciousness and asks that they step back. Even in his obviously beat up state, he still decides to be the man. He asks Arthur to take his mother and run away. During this, the clueless dummy insists on staying and joining them to fight, but his father reveals that his mother is pregnant. This leaves him with the answers to the suspicions he had since about why his mother looked like she was sick. Meanwhile, Ray asks that he leave immediately and states his trust that Arthur would protect his mother and unborn brother. Hurriedly, Arthur grabs Alicia and starts running away with her. Angrily, the largemouth bandit's leader orders his men to stop them, but Ray comes charging at him. When it seemed like Arthur and Alice would get caught, Adam and Jasmine throw knives at the bandits to clear the way for them. Soon, all the members of the party join hands to help Arthur and Alice escape while they face the bandits head on. While running away, Arthur reminisces on the fact that he was once one who stole many souls and has now become someone who is scared of having his own soul taken away from him. Mere thought of this leaves him angry, but his tiny feet have nothing to do about it but run for his sorry life. After running for a while, Arthur senses an incoming attack from the mountains and looks up to see a suspicious man about to strike them with his magic. He immediately pushes his mother away and in the process gets hit by the magic, which causes him to lose balance and fall off the mountain. On his way down, he is determined not to arrive at the underworld alone. He makes use of the dagger Jasmine had given him, which had a string attached to it, and throws it at the enemy. The dagger grabs onto the leg of the enemy and pulls him down from the top of the mountain. While this is going on, Durden and Angela try to use their magic to save Arthur, but he is too far away for it to reach him before he falls to the ground. As he descends to the ground, Arthur begins to think about his existence, while his mother watches him from the top with her hand stretched wide, hoping she can grab him. The thought of losing her son causes her to shed tears, but Arthur, on the other hand, is fulfilled that he got to protect his own family, even if it cost him his life. Although he is sad that he won't get to be a big brother like he wished he would. Surprisingly, Arthur survives the fall and wakes up to find himself in the presence of a very large and fierce-looking monster. This leaves him incredibly scared. The sight of the monster leaves Arthur completely petrified and unable to speak. Arthur, suspecting that the monster has lured him here, tries to strike her, but she simply pushes him away with a flick of her fingers. She assures him that she's not his enemy and gets up, gathering some magical fruits from a mysterious plant that she's grown herself to feed Arthur, assuming he needs food and nutrition to heal his wounds. Arthur can't believe that this scary monster is acting like a caring mother towards him. He is skeptical of her intentions, but as his wounds continue to hurt, not allowing him to move, he starts crying uncontrollably. The monster lady promises Arthur that she will answer every question in his mind, so Arthur takes the chance and munches down the food. With the condition fulfilled, he asks her if his parents are safe, and she claims that although she is unable to leave the cave, with her spatial awareness, she has confirmed that Arthur's family defeated all of the bandits and left this place a couple of days ago. Arthur is relieved to hear that his mom, dad, and his soon-to-be born sister are safe, and he thanks the monster lady for saving his life. He doesn't know what to call her, neither do we, so she introduces herself as Sylvia, and it looks like Sylvia is hiding some deep secrets. Arthur spends the next few days under Sylvia's care, continuing to eat the fruits, which accelerate his recovery and completely heal his wounds. Now that he's able to move, he wishes to return home, but according to Sylvia, they are in the territory of deadly beasts and bandits, and if Arthur goes alone, he wouldn't survive a single day out there. Still, Sylvia comes up with a way for him to leave, as she can't bear to see this child separated from his family. Using the last of her magical powers, she begins preparing to open a dimensional rift. In the meantime, Arthur spends his days practicing swordsmanship. He keeps wondering to himself what secrets this hideous-looking monster is hiding from him. Why is she so caring towards him? And what's the reason behind the hole on her chest? But since she never speaks about herself, he has no way of knowing. After training, he meditates to enhance his mana, which moves Sylvia's interest. She then shows him something even more fascinating, a method to gather mana from the surroundings while simultaneously using magic. Sylvia explains how people's fixed concept of mana has created the problem of collecting and using it separately. She points out that many beings like her can do both at the same time, eliminating the issue of mana depletion altogether. She adds that magical beasts can perform this technique as naturally as breathing. She then asks Arthur if he wants to learn this ability, and of course Arthur doesn't hesitate to answer with an enthusiastic yes. But before teaching him, she asks one question: why does he want this ability? Arthur answers honestly. He tells her that obtaining this power will make him stronger, and with that strength, he wants to bring death to anyone who dares to harm his loved ones. His naive answer earns him yet another flick on the forehead. Sylvia tells him he's failed. She refuses to teach someone who is driven by hatred, but Arthur believes it's only natural to despise one's enemies, speaking from the bitter experiences of his past life as the strongest king. Sylvia can sense Arthur's bloodlust and tells him that hurting people is never something one should aspire to. Then, after a pause, she apologizes for flicking him too hard, yet she also reminds him that the same hands capable of destroying him completely can also touch him gently. That's what she wants him to understand. It's better to be kind to others because anger, hatred, and violence only leave behind pain. She saved his life with compassion, and she doesn't want him to stain that act of kindness with his hatred. As Arthur slowly begins to understand what she's trying to teach him, she asks him another question: what will he use his power for when he becomes stronger? Arthur, recalling the memories of the time he spent with his parents and their friends, responds, saying that he wants to become stronger to protect his loved ones. And this time, Sylvia approves. Meanwhile, on a nearby cliff, another creature appears who looks exactly like Sylvia. He reveals that he's been searching for Sylvia, who has gone into hiding to stay away from his kingdom. Another flashback takes us into Arthur's past life. This time he's inside his royal chambers. After waking up in the morning, he heads to the office of one of his subordinates, who is a member of parliament. Arthur tells him bluntly that he is only the king in name only, and in reality it's the parliament that holds all the power. In a world where resources are being exhausted and birth rates are steadily declining, Arthur believes he's merely fulfilling the role assigned to him, that he's just a device of violence. His subordinate tries to calm him down, flattering him with big words. In any case, Arthur leaves, and shortly after, he is mysteriously assassinated. Just as Arthur tries to use the new power that Sylvia has given him, he recalls his former life. In that life, he knew not everyone was fortunate, but all he ever tried to do was unlock the ability to use Kai power. At that moment, the power falls on him completely, and he feels overwhelmed. The question, as always, remains: what will he do with this new power he has just received? As he tries to practice with the energy surging through him, Sylvia suddenly throws him against a rock. He's confused. What is happening? Why is the one who has been taking care of him suddenly hiding him away? She tells him not to be afraid, but that he must remain there for a while. Inside the rock, he witnesses an incredible surge of power. Another creature, one that looks exactly like Sylvia, arrives. This creature had been lurking around, searching for her. Sylvia is shocked that he found her, and he reveals that he followed the smell of blood. He demands she come with him immediately, but she refuses. Sylvia is ready to fight to the death. When the creature moves to attack, she transforms into her true self. The entire area turns icy as she breathes out frost. She is indeed a powerful dragon. Seeing her in this form, the creature warns her that using that kind of power will kill her, but she doesn't care about death. To her, she's lived a graceful life, and she's at peace with dying. So even if it means death, she refuses to surrender to him. They engage in a fierce, terrifying battle, one that Arthur watches helplessly from the cave. He's overwhelmed by the manner of strength they both have. As expected, the creature fights back just as fiercely. It even looks like he's gaining the upper hand, until Sylvia releases her trump card. She freezes the entire area, seizes the creature, and then opens the cave to let Arthur out. When he comes out, he is stunned. He sees her true form. She is a dragon. She opens the sky above and tells him he can now leave. She says she's given him power to help him find his way home. Again, she asks him what he will do with that power. She hopes he won't be consumed by anger or hatred. Arthur answers that he'll use the power to protect his family. She smiles. She doesn't want him to live a life of sadness or hatred. And to her, the power isn't to fight or revenge. Instead, she wishes he will spread love to everyone. His reply makes her deeply moved. Before letting him go, she gives him a dragon egg and a feather, asking him to wrap the egg with the feather. Then she touches him, and he's suddenly filled with an overwhelming flow of energy. A glowing line like a tattoo spreads from his fingers down to his arm, his top tears revealing the line. She admits she could have sent him home earlier. She always knew how. Arthur had thought she kept him there because it was unsafe to return. But she reveals the truth. She loved his company. Having someone to talk to, someone to bond with, was something she hadn't experienced in a long time. His presence had been a precious gift, and he sincerely enjoyed being with her too. He learned a lot from her. It's an emotional goodbye. In tears, Arthur regrets that there's nothing he can do to protect Sylvia. He recalls that she taught him a lot, even gave him strength. She had treated him with such love and care, but he can't even save her. Despite all she had done for him, he feels sincerely sad. He weeps, remembering the promise he made to her. He feels like he's failed. But all these doesn't matter to her. She had lived a life she is grateful for. But then, with a soft smile, he tells her he doesn't care what she is, whether she's a dragon or a monster. All he knows is that she is family. She teases, asking how he can call her a family when he already has a mother waiting at home. Thinking about it, he smiles and says, "Then you're my grandmother." That single word, grandmother, hits deep. It cuts into her soul. Even for Sylvia, a dragon, the emotion overwhelms her. She begins to cry. She asks him to call her that again. He does. does. Just as he calls her grandmother, she quietly lies down, content about her life. Arthur takes the egg and the feather she gave him, and the sky opens. It's time to leave, but he doesn't want to go. He begs her to come with him, but she doesn't respond. The opening closes just as she leaves. Sylvia releases the sealed world, and her opponent regains strength. She suddenly collapses to the ground as if she's dead. The creature approaches, wondering if someone as powerful as she is can die with just a small attack. He comes closer, trying to understand, but Sylvia had only played dead. As he draws near, she opens her eyes and releases a massive burst of mana, too powerful for anyone to survive in. The entire cave shakes, the explosion so great it reaches the surface. Meanwhile, in tears, Arthur continues his journey home. Her voice echoes in the sky. She reminds him not to forget their conversations. She knows sadness is natural, but begs him to smile through it. He shouldn't try to fight back or revenge due to sadness, but he doesn't think he has the ability to do that. She advises he shouldn't try to carry the smile at once. He should simply take things one step at a time, changing the world bit by bit. Arthur doubts himself, but she reminds him who he is. He is King Gray, the strongest king. He can do anything. She begs him not to fill his heart with anger and pain, but to live a life of happiness. He is shocked that all these while she was with him, she was aware of his true nature. It's a moment full of truth and deep emotion. Her voice eventually fades into the wind. Arthur, now back on Earth, carefully places her gifts in his bag. With a new resolve and strength, he starts going home with the intention to change the world with a smile, one step at a time. Boosting his movement speed with mana, Arthur dashes through the Elshire forest, ensuring he doesn't accidentally harm Sylvia's egg. While leaping from one tree to another like a monkey, he suddenly hears the voices of a group of humans. He gets closer to them, hoping the group will lead him to the city where his family resides. But just as he lands on the tree above them, he realizes they are actually 4 bandits who have kidnapped an elf girl to sell her as a slave. Arthur has already encountered a similar group a few days ago who tried to capture him and his mother to sell them both into servitude. Assuming these individuals are also affiliated with them, he seeks revenge. Meanwhile, the slave traders shoved the elf girl inside their carriage and prepared to leave the forest. Witnessing the entire event, Arthur is filled with fury, but recalling Sylvia's counsel, he calms his nerves and begins following the carriage until evening when the bandits set up camp for the night. Arthur has the option to play it cautiously by continuing to follow them to a human settlement while remaining hidden. But if he does that, he'll have to abandon the plan of rescuing the elf girl. In any case, he waits until midnight before making his move. The bandits are using horned wolves to pull their carriage, and Arthur devises a plan to use the wolves to throw the bandits off. He throws rocks at the wolves, causing them to howl loudly. One of the bandits attempts to calm the wolves, fearing their howls might attract dangerous creatures to the camp, and begins kicking one of them. Arthur takes this opportunity to sneak up behind the bandit, reinforcing his right hand with mana to make it sharp, and incapacitates the man. He then grabs the bandit's knife and mercilessly slays the second slave trader. The third bandit senses something off, but before he can react, Arthur slices his leg. The third bandit quickly alerts his leader about the kid mage, but the leader dismisses it and only sees more profit in his future. Convinced he'll capture Arthur alive, the bandit leader drops his sword, not wanting to harm his soon-to-be best-selling product, and reinforces his hands with mana before charging at Arthur barehanded. Arthur dodges the first strike and attempts to snatch the leader's weapon using the thread trick he employed in his last fight. However, the bandit leader, being far more skilled in combat, sees through Arthur's trick and kicks him away. He then picks Arthur up by the leg as if it's nothing, declaring that this is the end. But for Arthur, it's just the beginning. Arthur burns the bandit leader's left leg with a sudden fire spell, enraging him to the point where he now wants Arthur dead, stating he'll just sell the nasty kid's corpse to some creepy collectors. While the bandit leader is busy monologuing, Arthur uses his thread technique to throw his knife, stabbing it straight through the leader's forehead, ending him instantly. The third bandit is still alive and pleads with Arthur to spare him, promising to repent for his wrongs. But Arthur knows very well that all these pleas are just falsehoods. Plus, he cannot leave behind any witnesses to his actions, so he finishes him off as well. He then enters the carriage, lifts the blindfold off the frightened elf girl, and assures her that she is now safe to return home. She doesn't understand what's happening and gets worried upon noticing that Arthur has wounds all over his body. Arthur realizes that children aren't accustomed to such brutality, so he quickly covers the corpses of the bandits before the elf girl can see them. He then makes up an excuse, telling her that the bad guys perished in an accident, and she, being a child, is easily convinced. Arthur packs some of the essential items he might need for the rest of his journey and is about to leave. But the elf girl stops him, holding his hand and begging him not to leave her alone in this perilous forest. She tells Arthur that her parents once told her about tree ghosts that reside in this forest and devour children, though in all honesty, those were just stories meant to scare kids into going to sleep. In any case, Arthur realizes he has no choice but to bring the elf girl back to safety. She uses her sense of direction and says her home is toward the south, which happens to be the opposite direction of where Arthur's parents are. Arthur asks her how she got abducted, and she explains that she wandered into the forest while chasing butterflies and got lost. Arthur, unsurprised, expected something as ridiculous as that. He recalls a time in his past life when he too was imprisoned at her age, and not wanting her to endure the same fate, he agrees to escort her back to her home. The elf girl doesn't want to keep using the horned wolves for their travels though, because according to her, they'll die if kept away from their natural habitat. She courageously removes their restraints, and the wolves quietly return to the depths of the wilderness, back to where they belong. Arthur is happy to have saved such a kind-hearted girl, and feels even more determined to return her home safely. The next morning, the two courageous kids begin their journey through the forest on foot, and Arthur finally decides to ask the elf girl her name. The elf girl introduces herself as Tessia. She then asks Arthur his name, and he tells her. As they continue walking, he figures she must be hungry, so he hands her a bowl, sits her down, and tells her to eat. Even if she isn't hungry, he says it's best to eat for the sake of her body, as she still has a long walk ahead. The moment reminds him of Sylvia, who had once told him the same. Eat even when you're not hungry, because you need the strength to move. He catches himself talking just like her and smiles. Who can blame him? When you spend a lot of time with someone, you start picking up their mannerisms. After serving Tessia the meal, she grumbles, complaining that it smells odd. Really? Someone rescues you and gives you food, and you complain. Typical child behavior. He tells her he'll add leaves to make it better, but it's still not to her liking. He realizes he never truly had a childhood. Meals for him were about sustenance, not flavor. Watching her makes him understand what childhood is and how it works. She whines about wanting something sweet, but there's no chance she's getting that out here. Their journey continues, and honestly, it's an intriguing one. He asks about her city, and she shows him the mana she was chasing, saying there's plenty of it back home. She also says she can't wait to awaken her mana so she can study under her mentor. Arthur's surprised. He didn't know elves had schools, and when he asks, she doesn't seem to understand the question. They walk until nightfall, and he sets up a tent for her to sleep in. He hears the howls of the horned wolves he'd released earlier and worries they might attack. He regrets not killing them when he had the chance. Tessia enters the tent and tells him to sleep too, but being the protective big brother he is, he insists on staying outside to keep watch. She argues, saying her grandfather told her not to sleep in the same room as the opposite gender, but she'll make an exception. She promises to keep it a secret. When he still refuses, she comes back out scared. She claims that if he stays out, whatever danger he's protecting her from might notice and find her too. So for her comfort, he agrees to sit inside. Inside the tent, she starts chatting about humans, how they're perverted and have many wives. Wow. He tries to set the record straight, but she falls asleep. Eventually, he does too. The next day, their journey continues. From leaping across mountains to walking on water, he's proving to be a solid big brother. Being with her makes him realize what it means to be childlike. Still, the journey feels long, and honestly, he's starting to worry about his parents. Meanwhile, Tessia has gotten comfortable around him. She chats freely. Along the way, Arthur suddenly feels a sharp pain in his mana core. Tessia thinks he's just tired and rushes off to get herbs while he leans against a wall. The pain intensifies, and then one of the horned wolves approaches. Terrible timing. Tessia returns with what she calls herbs. Arthur, ever the big brother, shouts at her to run. He assumes the wolf is ready to attack them, but the wolf doesn't attack. Instead, it drops meat from its mouth and walks off. Tessia smiles happily, saying, "That's the reward of being a good kid." Have they really been good kids? They cook the meat, and after one bite, Tessia is overjoyed. It tastes far better than the strange meal from earlier. Indeed, when a child sees a good meal, they appreciate it happily. When Arthur tries it, he finally understands why kids prefer sweet food. It tastes so good that he wishes he had also eaten such before. She tells him she found mushrooms instead of herbs, and that women in her city eat them often. He lets his guard down and takes a bite. Big mistake. He ends up rushing to the toilet multiple times. That tasted awful. He has a very intense stomach upset that he can't handle. Night falls and they return to the tent. His eyelid is closing as he is tired and stressed out. He wishes to sleep, but Tessia is full of stories from books about humans and dwarves that she had read growing up to her dreams of meeting them. But she can't, she says, because she's heard humans are terrible, so she didn't know what to do. Arthur dozes off mid-conversation, and Tessia, like a sweet little sister, covers him with a cloth. The next morning they set off again. Arthur's exhausted but hides it with a smile so she won't worry. Even when she asks him if he is tired, he lies to her that he is still very strong when even the blind can see he is weak. As they approach her village, she asks to give him a nickname, Artie. He calls her Your Royal Highness in return. She doesn't take the joke as she should and says she was just trying to make him feel like a friend. Friendship is something he has barely experienced before, so I can't blame his reaction. She walks ahead and spots an opening. He doesn't notice at first, but she calls his attention to it. He doesn't know what it is. Before he knows it, she's hanging at its edge, calling for him to join her with her hand stretched out. In that moment, he's confused. Should he go with her or turn back home? He grabs her hand and follows her in. They arrive on the other side and he lays on the floor, weak. Before he can fully recover, armed guards surround him. They say they tracked them through the teleportation hole. Suddenly they seize him and hold a sword to his neck. He shouts for Tessia, only to see her standing still, expressionless. What's happening? Did she betray him? To all Leaf Village ninjas, that is it for today. Recap, do not forget to join our clan, our army, my friend. You can do that by clicking that red button below the video. Destroy it for me with that bell. To follow us on YouTube with many videos to come in the following days. So see you later, bro. Peace out.